this contest is moving forward is for the WWE Championship.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Welcome to another Round the Turnbuckle. I'm the Big Albowski. That guy right there is Professor Keith, as always. And joining us is the one and only, the almighty Reverend Ace Dallas. What's up, my man?
Nothing much. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
We got comments.
Our pleasure.
We got comments rolling in already. Big Dave. Good evening, guys. Let's praise Ace. Gilbert, let's go. David, praise Ace Dallas. Ace Dallas. So, Ace Dallas.
Yes.
Once upon a time, young Ace Dallas fell in love with professional wrestling because if you didn't love this business, you wouldn't be knees deep in it as you are. So,
True.
Tell us that story. How did you fall in love with professional wrestling?
So when I was younger, every Monday Night Raw, or at the time Thursday Night SmackDown, Friday Night SmackDown, I would watch wrestling with my dad, and a lot of the times with my dad's dad. He was a big wrestling fan as well. And just the larger-than-life characters of it all, the grandeur, if you will, was just fascinating to me as a kid. The character work, the stories, and a lot of that culminated in my love for the Undertaker. And when he came back as the Dead Man in 2004, that my love of professional wrestling broadened to new heights, and it just soared from there. He is so fascinating in every way, and I don't know, I could probably talk for an hour about the Undertaker himself, but just like what he brought to wrestling for me, just made me fall in love with it over and over and over again. Every time that entrance started, it was like, bam, I'm starting fresh and I love this.
You may have noticed that over the shoulder of my broadcast colleague there is a picture of the Dead Man. So that is a near and dear answer to his heart. Keith, your comments, please.
I mean, I love it, right? Taker is probably undisputedly, all due respect to Andre the Giant, is probably the greatest attraction in the history of wrestling. I mean, it's something different. Having been able to watch him over the years, I watched the last match of the streak at Mania Live. I've been to countless house shows all throughout all the different phases of his career and seen that entrance. I've been to TV tapings. There's nothing like The Undertaker. There just isn't. And I mean, yeah, and I mean, it's the definition of, to me, what a true worker is, because a true worker, to me, it's not about how many moves you can do or how well you do them. How do you engage the crowd? And that's a guy that can do what very few people can do, is just by entering the building, he draws the people in. He makes that connection. And I wish there were more people out there that I think really studied that and took that on board and said, okay, that's how you do it. That's how you make this audience, you make the audience your own. That's how you do this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So your love of The Undertaker got you into the business. Eventually you grew up, and at some point you decided you actually wanted to do this. So talk about, where did you seek training? Who trained you? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So to start, I always was like, because I'm not exactly the most athletic person. Like, I'll put that right out there. But when I first started, I actually broke in via commentary for Lancaster Championship Wrestling that used to take place here at the Host and the Expo Center in Lancaster. And I was blessed to be able to call matches with like Larry Zbyszko, or I commentated one of the final Piper's Pits that took place before he unfortunately passed away. I've commentated matches of like Shane Strickland, Leo Rush, Matt Riddle, Damian Priest, and it was a really awesome experience to be able to do that. As that kind of went south, because the company kind of went under there at one point, I was introduced to a man named the Wolfman, who I'm sure that you are so familiar with.
We met him once or twice.
Once or twice, right? Yeah. And he just said to us, you know what? If you come up here, you pay the mat fee, we will work with you. And guys like Evan Atlas and Ken Andrews would come down to the training facility for the Susquehanna Wrestling Organization. And we were up there every Tuesday and Thursday night for quite some time until they said that it was okay for us to make our debut. And it was like a whole class of like trainees. It was myself, Tim Rush, who you saw last night, Al, Prince Piranha was a part of that class with us. Shawn Rollins would come up occasionally. And then there was Sage Matthews, who was getting training through the Monster Factory, but would come up to the SWO training facility every now and again. So it was pretty awesome. And then I also sought out more training through Rob Noxious and CCW.
I know him.
Which was amazing. I think Rob's mind for wrestling is unbelievable. His understanding of like psychology and his ability to kind of pick the little things apart really made me become a better wrestler outside of the foundational skills that I learned early on.
So, as some people know, and most people know, you are also a 7th grade middle school teacher.
I am.
Talk about that and what that means to you, because that's a side of you that maybe some of the fans that watch you wrestle don't know.
Yeah, so I swear I was born to do it, because when I was 5 years old, I asked my parents if they could buy me a chalkboard for Christmas. And I would take my old math books and teach my younger brother, which I'm sure he absolutely despised, but he would go along with me. And it's just something that I always knew I wanted to do. I felt a great connection to all of my teachers throughout my schooling. And probably right around the senior year of high school, I had this English teacher, Dr. Brian McDonald, who opened my eyes to just how great this profession is. I always knew I liked my teachers. I always knew I liked school, but the passion kicked in that senior year of high school. And I made the decision to attend Elizabethtown College, where I majored in English and a concentration in secondary education, which means I'm certified in Pennsylvania to teach 7th to 12th grade. And I've been doing that now at Reynolds Middle School in Lancaster for 5 years. This is my 5th year there. I have learned so much. My colleagues are amazing, and they're more than just colleagues. They are friends, and they are people that I know I can count on, and it's an amazing community. The students are unbelievable. They surprise me day in and day out. A lot of people say they get the Sunday blues getting ready to head into Monday, but that just doesn't happen to me. Like, I'm always anxious to get back. If anything, I get the summer blues because I'm not able to teach. But but it is an unbelievable privilege to be able to teach right there at Reynolds Middle School in the city that I grew up in. So I went through the school district of Lancaster as a student, and now I'm able to give back in a different way.
Got a heart from Brittany?
No. Brittany's
all right, so you're a teacher. You're a wrestler. All right. Obviously, you have 2 loves in life. Okay. Talk about when you were done with your training. Talk about those first couple matches, because a lot of times I ask the guy about their first match, and sometimes they remember it and sometimes they don't. Do you remember your first match?
I do. My first match was on July 25th in 2015. It was in the same building. Yes, it was in the same building we were in last night. It was a battle royal. They called it an uprising battle royal because a lot of the trainees were getting ready to be put onto the SWO shows. And they actually ended up creating a second SWO show called Uprising. So we were all able to kind of have our own show, a developmental thing, if you will. So they put us all into a battle royal in that night. We opened up. and I made it to the final 4 with Prince Piranha, Tim Rush, and then known as Leo Sweet, but now known as Merrick Miami.
Right.
And yeah, so again, it's a bunch of my friends, and I'm like, this is really cool. And the matches that came after that, I wrestled like a strap match with Wolfman. I wrestled a guy by the name of Hayne, who was in charge of the company at that time as the booker.
Right.
And it really took a turn for me when a woman by the name of Sarah and I kind of came up with this idea of the Praise Me practice, and the idea of being this reverend that had like, an evil intention to poison society and things like that, with the way that the things that I thought would be right in the world. And after that, it just kind of took off and became a thing of its own.
So initially, that reverend character was supposed to be a heel, right?
Absolutely. And that is what it started as. The Praise Me was something that was to belittle the fans and belittle the wrestlers that I was working with, right? And it worked as a heel gimmick for about, I'd probably give it 3.5 solid years. Where I had an amazing run as the champion of the SWO, with being able to work a plethora of different individuals. And then the fans just started to take to the gimmick, right? And I see Keith nodding his head because it's such a common thing in wrestling, right? Where if the heel's doing the job well, then the people want to cheer the heel. So
exactly. So you have to turn organically because the fans are just like, no, I know you're good at this, and I'm having too much fun playing along. So it just becomes, well, fuck, they're not gonna hate me anymore. Now I have to just let them love me. It's just, it is what it is. But I'll get them later.
Speaking of heels / faces, Merrick Miami checks in, and he says, I remember it like it was yesterday. Can't believe this July will make 7 years, Ace Dallas.
Yes. Oh, Merrick is amazing.
7 years.
He is.
Yeah, he's something else, and we love Merrick Miami, and he knows that. But yeah, go ahead, keep going with the turn.
Yeah, so then right around as a little before COVID started, it was like the summer of 2019. I was having some stomach issues at the time, and I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. So I was talking to Van Valley, who is my longtime partner, but one of my best friends in life, and also the booker at SWO. I was saying to him, look, I don't know what this is going to be, right? And I might need to take some time off so that I can figure out what's going on. And so we built in an angle where we had a big blow off where he had turned face, but I was still the heel, and we were ending our partnership at that time. But there was another group known as the Syndicate, which was General Kiesel, Cody Rhodes, Trent Farrell, and then Sarah Morgan, who I talked about earlier, where they came out that night and beat me down. And it wasn't necessarily we're trying to get sympathy for me. It was, we might have to write him off for a little bit.
Right.
But as I was leaving, like, the crowd started to clap. And like, it was just one of those moments where I was like, well, that's not exactly what we wanted, but it was kind of cool that they cared.
Right.
And so as that program went on with the Syndicate, I ended up wrestling them in a 3-on-1 handicap match at one of the shows. And Valley and Ken Andrews then came to my rescue, and we had a big blow off. But the crowd just took to the gimmick in a different way. They cared about it. The Praise Me was no longer a negative thing. It's something they wanted to chant along with and cheer for. And it was cool. And I loved being a heel, and I had only ever been a heel. But who I am as a person resonates with being a face so much more. It was so hard to be mean and condescending to the people when I just wanted to strike conversation with them, ask how the kids were doing, things like that. So it has been for the better, I think, that happened so naturally.
So today is Mother's Day, Ace Dallas, and I would like to introduce you to Mayan. That comment down there is my mother. He's saying, hi, guys. Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
And to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Speaking of mothers, Keith, your boy, Classic Johnny Potter says, meanwhile, everybody still hates me. Yeah.
Well, he works so hard at it. I mean, would you expect anything less?
Mean Mark Mest chiming in. Look at that. Hey, guys, good to see Ace on here. He's a good kid.
I love Mark. Oh, my God.
We all love Mark. I've always
No.
said if you don't love Mark, you're on a list somewhere. You have to be because he's just
Seriously.
impossible to hate.
When I was working regularly with Rob, before I did decide to limit like my wrestling schedule and the different adventures that I was trying to fulfill, Mark was one of the people that as soon as I was done wrestling, I would try to find him and ask him, what did you see? What did you notice? How can I be better?
Pick that brain.
And he is someone who knows so much and has been doing this for so long. He was always willing to sit down with little old me and break it apart with me, which I loved, and I respect that so much. And I honestly can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah, Mean Mark Mest. Let me try, okay? Because Mean Mark Mest, ever since Keith and I met him, has continually supported us from the day we met him. And no matter how many people he sends us, it's never enough. And no matter how many show ideas he comes up with for me, it's not enough. And like he always wants to help somebody, everything. And in my case, he helped me realize a dream of mine to be a ring announcer.
Wow.
And recently at an Outbreak event, they allowed me to get in the ring and announce the pre-show. And I couldn't thank him more for that. And he knows, I hope he knows that, because that was a dream come true. And that led to on July the 22nd, I'm actually announcing my first ever show, the entire show on July 22nd in Hamburg.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah. So thank you, Mark Mest. And of course, Ace Dallas just couldn't said it better. What he said about Mark Mest. So you're an SWO. Have you wrestled anywhere else?
Yeah.
Talk about those places.
So early on, I thought, and this was before teaching, I was still in college. Life hadn't quite picked up yet. I was like, I really want to try this wrestling thing. I want to see where it takes me, the different brains that I can pick apart and things like that. And I wrestled a lot at SWO, obviously, consistently. I have not missed one of those shows in the past 7 years. I was wrestling at Valor Pro Wrestling, which was run by Adrian Bliss at the time.
Yep.
Still is. Valor. Yep, Valor. CCW with Rob Noxious.
Sure.
And then I was able to wrestle in states like New York at, I believe it was an ECPW event. The connection there was with Van Valley and Alex Ross. That was an awesome experience. I've wrestled in West Virginia, where I was in a car with Benny Slater for 5 hours, and who was one of my best friends in life. So that was awesome. I've wrestled.
He wrestled last night too, right? He wrestled last night. Yeah.
He defended his Uprising title in that 3-way.
Yep.
I wrestled at, it was called Baltimore Championship Wrestling. I want to say that it was Shawn Carlson who was running it or piloting it. And I think he took on another independent wrestling project after that one. But I wrestled there with Alan Clayball and Sage Matthews as a tag team. We were trying that for a little while. So I've been able to get around. Would I say that I was always like pushing myself to go out and go to the other place? Not necessarily, no, because as teaching picked up, I became very stressed and bogged down with work. And I've made that commitment to the SWO. And if other things happen, I'll see what my schedule looks like. And I'm always happy to, do different fundraisers or charity events, obviously, if companies reach out for that. But yeah, so it was a journey. I would say probably for about 2 years, I was wrestling or trying to wrestle every week. And I wrestled up at Dino's a couple times with Triple WA. Pretty consistently, probably for about a year. I did that, and both at Zern's and then Quakertown when they first started running there. But
nowadays it's mostly SWO, right? I mean, for the most part.
Yeah, and that just comes down to the fact that just life is just very busy. I do love this. But my perspective on it now is not, I want to make it big. My perspective on it now is the shows that I do, the companies that I do wrestle for, I want to reach their community. I want to make sure those people are happy, and I want to give back in any way possible. I just want to be a part of something that makes people feel good on a Saturday night. And if I can do that at the SWO, or if I do that elsewhere every now and again, life is absolutely beautiful.
Well, let me tell you, let me clue you in on something, my friend. Being that I was there last night, you do exactly that. Okay, you do exactly that. All right, you were one of the most entertaining parts of last night's show.
Thank you.
Your mic work, everything, your mic work, your match itself, the stuff in the ring, and we'll talk about your move set and where do you derive that from, because I'm sure you pull that from several different wrestlers, because it looked like you have a lot in your arsenal. When you first look at him, you're like, I wonder what he can do, and then next thing you know, he does all these things, and you're like, oh my god, you know what I mean? So he's not only is he entertaining on the mic, but he's entertaining in the ring too. So that combination is you can't put a price on that.
Right.
So let me tell you that if your goal now, what you just said, is to make everybody have a good Saturday night, well, then anybody that goes to see a match where Ace Dallas is on the card, they will have a good Saturday night. Make no mistake about that, okay? But before we talk about your moveset and all that stuff, please, please, please tell me and Keith how it was working with Sunny Kiss.
So just hearing that name makes the biggest smile on my face. So I have known Sunny Kiss since 2012. I knew her far before really we ever thought about wrestling independently or anything like that. We became really good friends. And as she took her journey through the Jersey scene and then New York, and then got training and ended up being signed at Lucha Underground, and then obviously ending up at AEW, we've still remained as close as we were since day one. And so I can't thank her enough for just being who she is in my life, first and foremost. Like, I just feel the need to say that. Sure. And then as I was able to break into the SWO, I was talking with Valley one night, and I was like, we both came up with this idea of a show called Summer Series. And we were like, we'll pick 5 bigger independent stars in the area to wrestle 5 of SWO's top, young stars, young wrestlers, and where we would have a best of 5 singles. And it was a great concept. And we both came up with the idea of me versus Sunny Kiss, because I'd known Sunny for so long, and I was like, this is going to be fantastic. I love it. I was like peak heel reverend at that time. Sunny's coming in as the lovable baby face who's so charismatic and, just amazing at what she does. And after that first match, Sunny and I were like, wow, like that was very magical. Like, a lot of people gave amazing comments about what they saw that night. And so then I was like, what if we do like a trilogy here? Like, what if we do a couple more? Right. So then when I won the title, Sunny came back to challenge me for the title twice. Once in April at a show called Test Your Might, where I think we drew about 250 people that night, which was one of the largest crowds in that era of the SWO. And to be able to main event that show with her, someone who's so close to my heart, was amazing. And then we finished up again at another Summer Series. So it was like a year-long feud that had 3 matches take place. So then Sunny went to Lucha Underground, got signed to AEW, and kind of went away from SWO for a little while because life just got crazy for her.
Yep.
And we were able to strike a deal and an agreement for her to come back and be my tag team partner, because I had turned face, and I said in a promo that, I asked the fans for forgiveness. And then I said, there's still one person that I need forgiveness from, and that's Sunny Kiss. So Sunny Kiss was my choice of partner to wrestle Rico Hendricks and Tim Rush. And so the Reynolds show coming up will be the 3rd time that I've teamed with Sunny in the past couple of months. And every single time, it just gets better and better. I love being able to be out there with one of the most important people in my life. And I don't know, love her to death. And I can't put her over enough, what she does for wrestling, for the LGBTQ community, for just representation in general, breaking down barriers. She is truly one of the biggest influences in wrestling, I think, and needs to be recognized as such.
And I've seen Sunny Kiss in AEW, of course, but I've also seen independent matches featuring her, on YouTube and things like that. The SW matches you just mentioned are also on YouTube. I have seen those too, because they were very entertaining. when you announced last night that your partner will be Sonny Kiss, the roof blew off the place, and every wrestler in the ring all the goons all fell over because they were like, no, that can't be happening.
Yeah.
Because obviously that evens up the odds, so to speak. And if you guys are out here watching this and you want to be part of that event, let this guy know, because on May the 20th, right?
Yes.
On May the 20th at the Reynolds Middle School, Friday night, May the 20th, that match will take place with Ace Dallas and Sonny Kiss. Get your tickets now. And how can they do that, Dallas? Tell them that.
Yes. So you can buy tickets at the door if you choose at the venue, or you can purchase via Venmo, which my Venmo is just at Nathaniel-Andes. My real name was just a hyphen in the middle. So you can pre-order them electronically, and I love that comment. Yeah, so you can buy it Venmo early on, or you can just buy it at the door. $15 for general admission, and all the money raised that night will go to our school student council so that we can use that money for future projects, to just empower the voices of our students to make our community a better place.
Awesome. It's all good, man. It's all good, and I'm excited for you. And I'm sure the SWO faithful are excited that she's coming back, because it's going to be awesome. Definitely awesome to check out. If get your tickets now if you can, or at the door, like Ace Dallas said. Can't wait for May 20th. The Goons are going down, says David, because the Goons know Sonny Kiss and Ace will win for sure. Red Lion chick, right? The fans are here. All right, so May 20th, that's the next event. So let's talk a little bit about last night.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you feel last night went for you? And then I'll give you my opinion, because I was there, I saw it. But how did you feel last night went, and talk about your match that you actually had?
Yeah. So we were able to open up last night's show, which is honestly my favorite part on any card. If you can send me out first, I absolutely love that. And I was teaming up with my longtime partner, Van Valley, last night in the finals of a very brief tag team tournament to crown number one contenders for the tag team titles, which, as we've said, are held by the Goons and have been for quite some time. And I wrestled Tommy Vex and Alex Cross, and they were accompanied by Mary Elizabeth. Right. And that was one of the first times I have worked either of those guys. So, like, first and foremost, with how I thought it went, I love wrestlers like Tommy Vex and like Alex Cross, where the work is not necessarily in all the action that's going on, the technical skill. It's the story that is being built, the facial expressions, the sports entertainment silliness, if you will. But, like, because there was one point last night where they were huddled up on the outside of the ring.
Yes.
And Allie and I went over and we joined the huddle casually. And they realized it, and then they screamed, right?
Right.
So it's silly, but it fits and it works.
It was great.
First and foremost, I love wrestling wrestlers like that. And again, that was one of the first times I was able to work them, and it was an amazing experience. I thought the match did exactly what it needed to do to open the show and tell the story. And the one thing that I always do when I'm in the ring to kind of understand, man, how is this going, is I'm constantly listening to the people. And if I hear them at all times, then I'm like, okay, let's stay on track. Let's keep doing what we're doing. We're firing on all cylinders. Or there might be a moment where they've come down and I'm like, Tommy, let's go to this. Like, let's do something like this. And so I'm always listening to the people. And that's how I gauge all of my matches. Are they always going to be technical masterpieces? No. I promise you that. But if I hear that crowd and I know the story we're telling is on point, I feel like what we did was successful.
I have huge respect for Tommy Vex and Mary Elizabeth. I've seen them wrestle, of course, a lot in 3WA, so with the professor here. And what a worker, Keith, right? What a worker he is, and charisma out the wazoo. You add Mary Elizabeth and her charisma, and you add that all together, it's the perfect package. We've tried to get them on this show 100 times. They have refused, but I mean, that's it's not for everybody. But mad respect, okay? I hope he's watching, because mad respect, Keith, we have for Tommy Vex and Mary Elizabeth. On the flip side, Alex Cross and Van Valley, that's the first time I've ever seen either one of those guys wrestle. And you, Ace, but my first impression was all four of you. It was just the fans were engaged, as you said before, the entire time. They were totally into it the entire time. I don't recall a moment during that match where, as you said, they kind of came down. Yeah. Maybe a little bit, but not. I mean, they were into that entire thing. Mm-hmm. So talk about Ace Dallas. Where do you draw all the parts of Ace Dallas? Because I'm sure you draw it from some influences and some different things like that. I mean, you mentioned The Undertaker earlier as an influence, but I'm talking like, do you study? Do you check different guys out, check different moves out? Like, talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do have to say, like, probably 75% of it does come, in terms of what I've studied, it comes from The Undertaker. But even down to what I wear, like the black singlet, but also with the black tights. And, you know, it's just that look, that vibe, the stories that he would tell, the reasons why he would do certain things. I would sit around with Tim Rush, Sage Matthews, Van Valley. I would sit around Merrick Miami, sit around with those guys, Prince Piranha, and just break down Undertaker matches. Like this is what we were doing on a Saturday night if we weren't before wrestling, or a Friday before a show, and just, you know, pausing it and being like, why do you think he did that there? Or, you know, what's the reasoning behind that? But, you know, along with The Undertaker, I draw a lot of inspiration from just people that really have been able to work the mic well in different eras of wrestling. Like, first and foremost, I think of people like Ric Flair when it comes to character work and their ability to be larger than life. When it comes to that drama, but also blurring the lines of like real life, I think 2011, 2012 CM Punk was phenomenal at what he did. Yeah. In every way, and honestly changed wrestling. And then there's Paul Heyman, who I think is maybe the greatest talker ever, maybe aside from Stephanie McMahon, who is also a great influence when thinking about the mic. And so watching how they would present themselves and carry themselves, and not necessarily be walking around the whole ring, but standing firm and addressing the crowd. You know, the words that they would use and things like that. And then for in the ring, the different types of moves. For a while, Bray Wyatt was big for me, and so is Kevin Owens. So is Kevin Owens, because and
how many times have we watched Punk versus Taker?
It's a great match. It's a great match.
Yes, it's so good. Tim and I would get back from going to dinner or sharing a couple drinks, and we're like, you know what we should watch right now? Punk versus Taker. And like over and over.
Keith and I were there, right, Keith?
For that first match, yeah. But I mean, then there was the matches they had before that, because they had the weirdest feud ever. It was like the first match was a submission match, then the second match is a Hell in a Cell match. And it's like, every match is a gimmick. Like, what do you do? Like, you went from 0 to 100 in like nothing, no time flat. It was just crazy, and it's one of my illustrations against, like, don't gimmick up pay-per-views, because you're not always going to have something that's going to fit the gimmick. You're not always going to have a feud ready to be blown off. And I think that's when you start to put that stuff in there, when you either need to blow it off or you need to do something a little fresh with it, or just a standard one-on-one, or getting a tag team together. Just the other little wrinkles don't work anymore. Now it's like, okay, let's up the danger level a little bit, or let's play to one guy's strength and now the other guy's weak against it because he doesn't do that stuff. Yeah. You know, it's a problem when you're just saying like, well, it's September and we have to have a cage. So, yeah, just get in the cage, guys. It'll be fine.
Right.
Whatever. Go ahead.
No, so did you say that you guys were at the WrestleMania 29 match?
Yes.
That's amazing. I know Sage Matthews and Merrick Miami were also there live for that.
They were.
Yeah, they mentioned that to us, that they were there. It's like, that's crazy. And then now we've met them all these years later.
Right.
Yep. And so, as I was saying, the influence for In the Ring, especially lately, was a lot of it came from Bray Wyatt and a lot of it came from Kevin Owens. And I'm not a small guy, so like to see two guys like that get in the ring and be agile and be high impact and different things like that. It was awesome to see that, hey, guys that, you know, kind of look like me, or, you know, I look like them.
I was watching your match not to cut you off, but I was watching your match last night. It's funny you mentioned Bray Wyatt because I was seeing a lot of that there. I was like, you know, wow, like because you were flying around the ring like he can. He's a big guy. He was flying around the ring. You do that move perfectly that he did, where it was an Irish whip where you throw your whole body up.
Yeah.
That he used to do. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, Keith? When Bray Wyatt used to Irish whip a guy and throw his whole body up, almost like a high cross body, but he takes him out. You know what I mean? That was phenomenal. That was flawless and perfect, by the way, last night. But it was, you know, I don't know if you've been working on that or you've always done that, but that was cool. But I did see a lot of Bray Wyatt in there, so that's why I was like, okay, yeah, he does put Bray Wyatt in there.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, it just comes from the simple fact that, like, hey, I see myself in them and they're successful at this. And it's awesome where we draw our influences from in life and the reasons, right? So it's just really cool.
Got a comment here from, I believe it's Taisha.
Yes.
Thanks, guys, for having Ace on the show. We already love him, but it's great to get to know him better. He's the best.
Oh, love her and her family. They're all amazing.
Thank you very much for that comment. So continue. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had to mention that Bray Wyatt thing because, well, yeah. And then Kevin Owens too. Same thing. A big guy that can fly around the ring, can do the cannonballs and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like I touched on every aspect of that in the sense that, you know, just those two guys in general really just opened up my eyes to, oh, you know what, Nathan, you can do this, and we're going to give it a try.
So you've had plenty of opponents over the past how many years? How many years have you been doing this total?
So it'll be 7 in July.
7 years. Okay. So yeah, that's right. Merrick Miami mentioned that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about some of your best opponents, not throwing the guy, because I'm sure you've enjoyed working with everybody you've enjoyed working with. But tell us about some of the guys or girls that you've worked with that you've had the best chemistry with, that you just seemed like you played off each other well, that it seemed flawless. And when you got back behind that curtain, you're like, okay, we did something there.
Yeah. So, yeah, as I said earlier, the first one that comes to my mind is Sunny Kiss.
Sure.
And that stems from real life chemistry to in the ring. And it was just flawless every single time. Prince Piranha is the other one that comes to my mind, where we have had some matches that have gone close to 20 minutes. And I'm not always out there for 20 minutes, you know, doing the thing. I'm like, we'll go out 8 to 10, we'll do our thing, we'll get the crowd, and bam, we're great. But like Piranha always pushed me, and I think in turn I always pushed Piranha. And we had a match last June where he beat me for the SWO championship at the time.
Yeah.
And I just loved that match. I go back and watch it and I'm like, man, it's a completely different style than I wrestle. And I think he just brings out the best in me. He's an amazing, amazing, amazing wrestler.
Yeah.
I've also loved my matches with Van Valley. We had a match right after COVID when we came back in May of last year. We had a match that main evented the show, built on respect. We were both going in as baby faces, and, you know, ladders and tables and chairs and everything in between. But it was such a fun story to tell with him. That man, when it comes to his ability to tell a story, write a story, or simply understand what we have to do to get from point A to point B, it's unlike anything else. It is awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. He gets those moments.
Yeah.
And the last one, well, I'll give you 2 more. Alan Clayball is another one that when I've wrestled Alan, every single time, oh my gosh, I can't sing his praises enough. And the thing I love about Alan, Prince Piranha.
Prince Piranha, shout out. He will be on this program on June the 5th, before your event on June the 5th on at 12 noon, special time, fans. Yes. Prince Piranha will be right here. Look ahead.
So with Clayball, the thing that I've always noticed is I'm pretty simple when it comes to being in the ring, but Clayball is as well, with like sprinkles of like high impact and athleticism, because he can do that, right? but he does everything so subtly in the ring. And I was sitting watching his match last night against Young, Dumb, and Broke in the main event.
Yep.
And I was talking to Tim Rush, and we were just talking about how Allen doesn't ever waste a movement.
Nope.
It's crisp, it's clean, and it's just downright phenomenal. Like, and so I love him to death, and working with him is always a pleasure. The last person was actually, so last night at the show, Al, one of the goons, his name was Saul Esperanza.
Yes.
I had the opportunity to work with him in a tag team match just a couple of months ago. It was part of our double header in February. We had a show Friday night and then an SWO show as well Saturday at 2 different venues. I watched him Friday night against Jason Andrews, and I said to Don, I was like, whoa, I want to wrestle that guy. Facial expressions, mannerisms, it's unique. It's like, I've never seen someone move and glide in the ring like this before. And so the card ended up breaking in a way where we did get to wrestle him the night after. One of the other goons couldn't make it, or they had to fill in elsewhere, and he joined our match.
Right.
I loved it. I felt so energized by the fact that I got to be in there with him. And I'm just like, and he's also going to be in the match at Reynolds. He's going to be one of the 3 goons on the other side. So
there you go.
I'm super excited.
So before we ask the other questions that we normally ask our guests, talk about that match. Okay. Who's involved? 3-on-3, right? It's a 6-man tag.
Yep.
Talk about that match.
All right. So on one side, it'll be the goons. They're managed by Big Dust.
Big Dust.
Who I absolutely love to hate. Right.
Right.
He's awesome at what he does.
He seems like that.
Yes. And it'll be Killian McMurphy, who I can't sing his praises enough. I think he's phenomenal at what he does.
He is.
Saul Esperanza and Robbie Radke. And again, I can't slight Rob and not comment on the fact that I think he's awesome as well.
Right.
And then on our side, it will be myself, Van Valley, and then, of course, Sonny Kiss in the main event for the tag team titles. And it will be under a street fight stipulation where we can kind of get a little crazy
rules.
and have some fun.
It's gonna be all over the place, Keith.
Yep.
Little Lancaster concession stand brawl, maybe.
Exactly.
I'm just saying.
Exactly.
Little things make history.
Mm-hmm.
So if you all want to see that match, go to get tickets from this guy on Venmo, or you can get them at the door, and it'll be at the Reynolds Middle School Friday night, May the 20th. Doors open at 6 in Lancaster, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Lancaster, PA.
So for information on that, check out SWO also on their Facebook page as well. They have everything posted there. They let you know exactly what's going on at all times, which is great.
Yes.
So we got 2 more questions for you.
All right.
Okay. The first question is, if you could book yourself in any dream match that you could possibly think of against an opponent, alive or dead, and on purpose, I'm taking the Undertaker out of the equation. Okay. You are not allowed to say the Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
But what if that's his dream? How dare you take the man's dream? How dare you?
Well, because Mark Mest would book him against the Undertaker, but I would not. Okay, so if you could pick anybody with the Undertaker aside to book yourself in a match in any stip, could be a tag match with you and somebody else against a team, maybe whatever you want, a triple threat match. If there's 3 guys, 4-way dance, whatever. What match would that be, and why?
All right. So if we're going to take Undertaker out of it, then my dream match would probably be a tag team match, just so I can get everyone in there, where I would team up with I want to team up with Kane. All right, I'm going to replace the Undertaker here. I would team up with Kane to wrestle.
Gotcha.
To wrestle Rikishi and Goldust.
Rikishi and really explain that, please.
You're probably like, whoa, who is this guy? So when I was younger, and I first
started Undertaker, that's an outrage.
I agree. The petition will be filed.
If you're saying that you're going to team up with the Undertaker, I'll give you that. Okay. So if it's Yeah, so if it's you and the Undertaker versus Rikishi and Goldust, you can have that.
Okay.
Okay, because I was going to swerve him otherwise and be like, Taker gets the special referee and chokeslam Allen for not letting him wrestle.
So yeah, when I was younger and I first started watching wrestling, the Undertaker was the American Badass. And while I think that time period, awesome, Undertaker did what Undertaker has done throughout his entire career. He did amazing, but it didn't necessarily resonate with me the way the Dead Man did.
Right.
Still loved him, but what I was excited about was Kane's pyro. Like, I would look at the ring post and be like, is the pyro taped to the ring post? Right? Does that mean Kane's gonna be on tonight?
Right.
And in 2002, Goldust made his WWE comeback at the Royal Rumble. And the first two entrants in that Royal Rumble match are Rikishi and Goldust. Something about the way Rikishi could move, the music, the dancing, and as a kid, I thought the stink face was the greatest thing ever. And Goldust is another one of those people that it's the way that he would move in the ring. It was just different, and the gold lights, the robe, the wig, man, those guys. So it would be a tag team match using those guys in some way. Mm-hmm. I don't know. One of my first action figures was this little miniature Goldust, and I would always play with Rikishi in the video games or Kane, especially when he had his mask on, during that time. And I don't know, it's different. People always give me the same reaction. Like, trust me, I knew that was coming because I've faced it before. But yeah, it's like they could all really wrestle, right? Like they're
oh god, Dustin's so freaking good. I think people don't even understand. Now, right? Yeah, I don't think people understand how good Dustin always has been. I mean, just amazing talent.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And quick side note, like, so when Sonny Kiss was able to team with Dustin there for a little while, they did a little stint as a tag team in AEW. And also Dustin is like Sonny's mentor and trainer, my apologies. And that is just so cool to me that someone that I've looked up to for years is now influencing the career of Sonny. And
right,
it's just beautiful. And so, like, yeah, they could all really go. They were bigger, right? Like those bigger guys always resonated with me. Rikishi, unbelievably agile. I remember watching Undertaker chokeslam him off into the hay bales and just it was just those guys. I was like, that's what I looked forward to. Monday night it was normally Kane and Goldust, and Thursday night for SmackDown I was like, I hope Rikishi's on tonight. So it's just so cool.
My next question. Well, go ahead.
Old fart that I am. I remember their first runs in WWE.
Yeah.
I remember Rikishi with the head stringers.
I'm a little older than you, Keith. I know him before that.
That's true.
I know Mean Mark Callis. All right. So anyway.
Right.
All right. So the next question, sir, is fill in a blank.
Okay.
All right. The greatest wrestling match of all time is?
It is undoubtedly, I will fight anyone to the mat on this one.
You're going to fight the professor because I want to see if he debates you.
How do you know he's going to fight me? Maybe we'll agree. You don't know.
It is.
You're not my real dad.
The match at WrestleMania 25 between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to fight him on that. I think that is probably as close to perfect as you can get.
It is a match that I have probably watched close to 25 times.
Wow.
And 30 minutes of just some of the smoothest transitions I've ever watched in wrestling. Everything led to the next step perfectly. The beginning psychology, like even to the point where like I love the fact that Shawn came down from the heavens and Taker rose up from the depths of
light.
Like it's the little things like that for me that match is, you know what, the moves are great, but it's so much more. What you get in that 30-minute block is some of the best storytelling. And it was the launching point for then 26 with Shawn and the next 2 with Hunter, but which is like probably the greatest story ever told over the span of 4 years.
Sure.
But that match, oh my God, the finish, catching him from the moonsault into the tombstone.
Yep.
Even this, when he threw Shawn over and Shawn backflipped back into the ring and he grabbed him into the tombstone, and then there's that kick out with that iconic meme face from
of like, how, why?
Because prior to that point, the only time at a WrestleMania an opponent had kicked out of the tombstone was when Charles Robinson the year before had to run 50 yards to get there. Right? The referee. And then so there's, okay, it makes sense that Edge kicked out. This one, the ref was right there. It was like he kicked out because he kicked out. And he still has more to go. And the last Sweet Chin Music falsie in that match, the sound that the 70,000 plus made in that building, it's so loud. I used to sit and watch this live recording of a fan that was there in Houston that night on YouTube, and I would watch it over and over and over again because they could not believe. They thought probably for a second that Taker was going to lose. And I think that's one of the first times where people were like, I could see Shawn Michaels breaking the streak.
Yeah.
You know? So that match is as close to perfect as a wrestling match can ever get.
It's hard to argue with that, and I'm not going to try because I'm 2 against 1 in this room. When I asked that question, all right, and I have the utmost respect and love for The Undertaker as well. Of course. I do. But when I asked that question, it seems to be, the answer is derivative of how old you are. Mm-hmm. Because if you ask anybody 40 plus, they might say something different.
Yeah.
And if you ask anybody, 35 and under, they might say that match because that's the first match that pops into their head.
Yes.
I'm not going to argue with it because I can sit here and argue that to anybody that's the greatest match of all time. Sure. But a lot of people say other matches. I'm not even going to mention them because I got 3 comments here right in a row I want to get in before we get out of here. David says, I think Ace should feud with Tim Rush again and take his live title.
I agree.
Okay. Jeff Becker, Ace Dallas is also an asset to the teaching profession. So proud of him that he has the time to do both. We are too.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends that are teachers, and I mean, that's a hell of a commitment. I've talked, one of my best friends is a teacher, and I'll talk to her, and all the time she'll be like, nobody gets it. They don't understand that we go home and we're doing lesson plans and we're grading tests and we're doing this, that, and the other thing. Like, you punch out at work, you get to go home, and you get to not deal with it until the next day. I'm punched in almost 24/7 until the summer comes around, and even the summer is not completely done because come July or August, she's in that classroom, setting that classroom up for September. So, I mean, you guys don't get the break that people think you guys get, and to be able to do that full time and then still have time to compete and wrestle at a high level, that is a testament to you that people should not overlook.
And Keith, we have a live comment from WWE Backlash because Bob Bushman is in Providence for Backlash.
Is he? That's amazing.
Nice.
And he is commenting on this show, and he says, Ace is a class act. This has been so incredible to hear all the stories. Thanks, Ace, and thanks, Big Al, for getting this done. It was absolutely my pleasure, Bob, and it was great to see you last night, and I can't believe you're at Backlash. I saw that post, and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? This guy was at WrestleMania in Dallas. Then he's at SWO last night, and then today he's in Rhode Island or Connecticut, whatever the hell. Yeah. He's at
that's Rhode Island.
It's in Rhode Island. Backlash. He's at Backlash.
Bob Bushman is the hardest traveling wrestling fan.
He's awesome.
I think he's going for that trophy.
He eats, breathes, and sleeps wrestling. Oh, my God. Speaking of that, David's back. Motorman says, thanks, Ace. Great to learn more of a great entertainer and even great inspiration. Thank you, Big Al and Professor Keith, for this opportunity. Praise me. We love you, Ace.
I love you, too.
All right. So we're going to wrap this up, brother. We'd love to have you on another time, maybe 6 months or a year from now, where we catch up with you. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
And also, if you know anybody or friends that could benefit from coming on here and telling their story, please send them my way. Also, the last thing we always do, I like to do this. I steal this from my brother's podcast, which is if there's any question at all that you could ask either me or the professor, what would that be? We kind of flip the script. You can interview us now. Any question at all, you can ask either both of us or one of us. I won't be offended if you just ask him a question.
No, so I think I have two in mind really quick. I think the first one is, what would you both consider to be the greatest match of all time?
Keith?
You know, it probably is that Mania 25 match. And I've watched a lot of stuff over the years. I've watched a lot of ECW. I've watched WCW. I've watched WWE, WWF. I've watched stuff from the territories and whatnot. And I mean, like you say, it's hard to find something that just works as perfectly as that match does on a storytelling level, on a drama level, in terms of what they did and being able to kind of do the stuff that you see guys wanting to do now, of like doing a big move and kicking out and stuff like that, but not having it be like, oh, come on.
Right.
You know, everybody just living that and being like, whoa. It's hard to find anything anywhere that just is as perfect and as good as that match. I mean, even if you look at like the Flair Steamboat trilogy, which is a gold standard too, it's hard to say, but is any one of those matches better than that match? It's really hard for me to do it.
Right.
As a kid of the 80s, Ace Dallas, my answer is, and has always been, the Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, WrestleMania 3.
Yeah.
However, that match that you guys have been talking about, WrestleMania 25, is a damn close second to that.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm gonna, it's when people talk about, whether it's fans, whether it's wrestlers, whether it's whoever we're talking about that are either involved or not involved with the wrestling business, you have this conversation. I noticed that a lot of matches within the last, like, say, 5 years aren't mentioned. So I'm going to mention one that was recent because it deserves to be in that conversation because of what happened there.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's given praise because it's so damn new. But this past WrestleMania had Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. And
yeah, that was really good.
And the thing about that is that the world knew Cody was coming.
Yeah.
The world knew that would be Seth Rollins' opponent. Mm-hmm. But the pop he got as soon as the music hit, it was a goosebump moment. And that's why I love this business, because it's been years and years and years of goosebump moments. Like when Edge came back at the Royal Rumble, his music hit, that place just went crazy because Keith was sitting right next to me watching that, and his jaw hit the floor because
I almost dropped one of your kids. One of your kids was sitting with me. I was holding them at the time. I think it was Liz. I think it was your baby, and I almost dropped her. I'm like, what?
Unbelievable. Like, it's those moments, Ace Dallas.
Right.
Those goosebump moments. You were talking about moments. Wrestling's about that. Finding those moments. Like that moment when you were leaving and the fans were clapping, and you were like, okay, that's not what we wanted, but it works.
Yeah.
And it was a 3-on-1 handicap match, and you lived. How were you not going to turn babyface off?
Correct.
How could you not think that was going to turn you babyface?
The goosebump moments, right? Mm. Cody comes out, the music's playing, almost 80,000 people are going crazy. And then on top of that, they had a match, and they had a pretty damn good one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I would like to honorably mention that match as a recent example of what can be happening, what could be happening. Right. So, yeah, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, sure, standard bearer for most fans. But guys as old as me or older, they still talk about that Mania 3 match. But, Macho Man was, that's, you guys talk about The Undertaker. That's how I feel about Macho Man Randy Savage.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
So anyway, you had a second question?
Yeah, I'm just curious what inspired the decision to create Around the Turnbuckle and have your own podcast together. Just where did this originate from? The origins of it. I'm intrigued.
Keith, you want to tell that story or should I?
I mean, I can tell part of it, and then you can kind of jump in. So, Alan and I used to work together, and we kind of met by chance. Like, we were actually kind of in neighboring areas. I was working in the hardware department of Walmart at that point. Usually on the second shift, he was working over in the electronics department on the second shift, and just kind of, hey, how's it going stuff. Somehow it came up that we were both wrestling fans, and then we started to talk about that. We started hanging out, watching the pay-per-views and stuff together, and then maybe about 2 to 3 years after that, Alan started talking about, like, hey, we should sit down and do a podcast. I think originally we were thinking it would be something like the old Legends Roundtables in WWE. Like, right. we know stuff about wrestling. We could talk about this. People would want to watch this. I'm like, are you sure? Yeah, I'm totally sure. All right, well, if you can make it happen, I'll show up. I'll do it. It could be fun.
Right.
Is that kind of how you remember it now?
Yeah, and we talked about it then for like 2 years before it actually happened.
Yeah.
And how we actually crossed that, barrier, that threshold was the pandemic. When the pandemic hit in 2020, right around May or June, I think we started just a bunch of us sitting around talking about wrestling.
Yeah.
And then since we started doing it, I kind of started looking for other podcasts and see what they do and what they talk about. And I quickly found out that that's what they all do.
Mm-hmm.
They all sit around and talk about what happened on Raw this week, what happened on AEW Dynamite. AEW wasn't a thing yet, but I'm just saying,
right, it
was starting to become a thing. And then, everything else, they might mention other things, but I thought, maybe we should see what's going on in our local wrestling. I live in PA. Keith lives in New Jersey, but we have Allentown, we have Quakertown, we have Harrisburg, we have Mark Meston Outbreak in Hamburg. We within our driving range. So we decided to start checking this stuff out, and I was invited to an event at Quakertown by Brickhouse.
Okay,
and so he was a friend of my brother's. And he liked my brother's music, and he invited us down to a show. That was the 40th anniversary show 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago this month.
Yeah.
And when I went down there, I saw my first 3WA show, and I met him, and and then Keith and I had him on the show. He was our first local guest. Fast forward to then word of mouth spread that, hey, these guys have this show. If you want to go on the show and tell your story, go ahead and tell your story. Well, that exploded to the point of where Keith and I, met all kinds of wrestlers from not only locally, but all over the country. Big shout out to JT Funk. He started that. There was a wrestler named, JT Funk from CCW, right? Ace House.
Yeah.
So JT Funk.
Big supporter.
We had him on, and he loved us so much. He sent us like 10 guys from all over the country, Texas, Florida, you name it, right? And it just ballooned. And then our crowning achievement, we had on Hall of Famer Stevie Ray.
Okay.
Which from Harlem Heat, which was awesome.
Yep.
Okay. And that just happened because he was a friend of mine. And he was starting new podcasts, and he wanted to go on different wrestling podcasts, and he lives in Pittsburgh. So he knew we were a PA podcast. That kind of helped. But other than that, he wanted to let people know. He said, hey, I got a new podcast, and I got a couple of them going on. So I want to go on these podcasts and promote it. So they put me in touch with him, and they gave him my number. He called me. Just imagine that. Okay. So the phone rings. I'm like, hello. He's like, hey man, this is Stevie Ray. What do you say to that? Okay.
Right.
So I just totally was cool. I was like, oh, hey, how you doing? Like he was a long lost pal. Right.
Mhm.
And so we had him on in December of, was it 21, Keith?
I think it was around there, yeah.
December of 21, or was it December of 2020?
I think it was 20. No, it would have had to have been 20 because when we went to Hamburg last year, that was the clip we were running. That was
Yes.
July of 21. So it would have had to have been 2020.
So basically, Ace, through word of mouth, through
Yeah.
wrestlers telling wrestlers, hey, you should go on this Around the Turnbuckle show because these guys are great and they love wrestling. Blah, blah, blah. We've made lots of friends. We made friends with Mark Mest. We made friends with Rob Noxious. We made friends with Dino Sana.
Yep.
We've made friends with different the right people. And so we've been having all this things happen, and it's been amazing. It has led to Dino Sana pulling us into 3WA as the commentators of 3WA video.
That's awesome.
So Professor Keith is the play-by-play guy. I'm the commentary guy on a weekly show called 3WA Carnage.
Yeah.
That's why I got a little tinge when you were talking about, the joy of being a commentator. Like, I got to call a Shane Douglas match not too long ago. That was, like, so freaking cool to me.
Yes.
Like, how crazy is this? I never thought I'd get to do something like this.
It's amazing.
Like he talks about having big stars on just out of a local person. We knew Tony Batista. He was like, oh, hey, do you guys want to talk to my trainer, get my trainer on here? And usually they talk to Al, and I, not to disrespect Al, but sometimes I'm a little more the history guy than he is. So he tells me on the day, he's like, yes, we got Tony Batista's old man on there. And he kept calling him his old man, and Al's thinking, like, I don't know why we're interviewing his dad. Why is he putting his dad on here? And he's like, the guy's name is Rudy Gonzalez. And I'm like, that sounds really familiar to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. Alan, is this Rudy Boy Gonzalez? And he's like, oh, I don't know. He just said his name was Rudy Gonzalez. I'm like, okay, we need to, and we have like 5 minutes, 10 minutes to air at this point.
Texas Pro Wrestling,
yeah,
brother.
Yes. And we have like 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm like, okay, assume that it is because this is really big. He goes, what do you mean? I go, he's the guy that trained Ryan Danielson, that trained all of those Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy guys.
Yes.
So, like, we need to be really respectful and not just treat him like he's some dude on here. And thankfully it worked out. Nobody knew any of this, and now I'm blowing it up and I'm telling everybody, but it just seemed like that kind of moment.
It was great, and we've had mostly local wrestlers, but wrestlers from all over the country. We've even had wrestlers from across the pond in Switzerland. So the whole thing is just, it continues to bubble, and we couldn't be more humble, calling professional wrestling, myself getting a shot at ring announcing, thanks to Mark Mest and Ryan Vox for making that happen.
Right.
It's amazing that this little show has led to the things that we're doing now. And now all we want to do is be a platform for guys like yourself, for guys, anybody out there, especially the younger guys, the younger talent guys just starting out who are maybe 1, 2, or 3 years in and nobody knows who you are. Come get exposed, because we will do whatever we possibly can to help you. If you join us and tell us your story, we will always support you. Ask anybody. Ask Mark Mest. Ask Evan Atlas. Okay? Ask any of those guys that have
Merrick Miami, JT
Merrick
Funk.
Miami. We have become friends for life.
Yep.
And so whatever we can do, we share everything. We promote all said events, everything like that. So we just love how this whole community, and we also love how we've gotten involved with all these local. This is what we wanted to do. This is what we've become, is to help and support local independent wrestling. And we couldn't be more thrilled about that.
Love it. I love that.
Just watching Ace Dallas and Sonny Kiss makes me want to try out for SWO. I've done MMA for 7 years. Such great inspirational people.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right.
Why
Ace
not?
Dallas,
Why not try out?
We've had you for over an hour. So we usually try to keep it under an hour. So I apologize there. We're running into WWE Backlash. So I hope people are still watching. So Man, brother, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I can't thank you enough for what you do. You are very entertaining. I can't thank you enough for being a teacher and molding young minds. And I hope eventually when you get to the tail end of your wrestling career and now you start like teaching, I think you should do that too. I think you should, because if you're as good a teacher as I've heard you are, when you get to the point where your body's like, okay, we need to slow this down a little bit, then maybe you start becoming a trainer since you're such a good teacher. So then you're teaching the kids in the middle school and you're teaching the young talent in wrestling because, man, it's been a delight to just meet you and get to know you today.
Well, thank you both so much for the kind words, and thank you for all that you do for the local community. And I hope to see you guys down the line. And this was truly my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Professor Keith, you got any parting words so we can let this guy go?
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being a part of it, because we can't do this without you guys helping us out and telling your story and buying into it. Like Al said, we're nothing without the community, and it's so great to see the local community coming together like this, not being competitive, being about help everybody out. That's the way it should be.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to get out of here. If you want to see this guy in action, go to SWO for information or Venmo him personally for tickets for the next big event. SWO in Reynolds Middle School in Lancaster on May the 20th. It is a Friday night, guys. It is a Friday night. Doors open at 6, bell time 6:30. Go check out Ace Dallas. He is fun. Ace, don't go anywhere when I go off the air. You will see everybody next time on Around the Turnbuckle. I am the Big Albowski's Professor Keith. He is the almighty Reverend Ace Dallas. And we'll see everybody next time on Around the Turnbuckle.
Ladies and gentlemen, this contest set for one fall is for the WWE Championship.